Okay, let's go.
Welcome back to the End Zone. We're going to go ahead and get on with the Week 7 questions. As always, if you like our content, please leave a like down below. Subscribe for more. We're going to go ahead and get it kicked off today. First up, with the kind of weird week from Week 6, we saw the two last of the undefeated teams go down. So we're going to start off the conversation with Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. We saw some injuries go through the roster this past weekend, and it kind of almost exposed Brock Purdy. What do y'all think? Do you think it's kind of a, kind of telling sign for the future, or do you think Brock Purdy's fine and just a bad game? Start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, I think we gotta think about this, that Brock is still, he's played that was his
I think 10th regular season.
10th regular season start. Yeah. So
his first regular season loss too.
Yeah, without, tearing his elbow, So I think that should definitely be factored in. I think he showed a lot of poise last year, just being a rookie. Not really expected to do anything, but obviously he's on the best offense in the league. So there is some questions of if he can perform to the caliber we've seen him at over the last 10 games without Christian McCaffrey, who, last year was a different story for C-Mac, which is good because he's one of the better players in the league. But now he's hurt. Stands to reason that since it's happened this early in the season, that it'll probably come back and rear its head again later in the year, which is a little more what we're used to seeing from Christian McCaffrey. Debo also has had some injury problems the past couple of years. So, you're missing the most electric running back in the league. You're missing one of the best wide receivers, or one of the best guys with the balls in his hands in Debo. Kittle lays a freaking one-pointer in fantasy, screwed me in one of my leagues, but that's beside the point. Kittle can't perform. Kittle's getting old. He's a physical guy, but obviously that physicality kind of catches up to you. I think Ayuk's still really good, but you can't really run with an old tight end and a young wide receiver too and expect to win a whole lot of games. Luckily they have that good defense, but I don't know. It was I think it could be a little telling of what will happen once all these guys start to go down and get out of their careers and such.
Yeah, I agree. I think this year, they'll be good. I think Purdy will find a way. He was thrown into the situation last season and still found a way to win. But like you're saying, not so much addressing the question, but they are going to start aging. Their defense has some old guys on it as well. They're going to start falling off pretty quick, I think, the 49ers overall. So we'll see how the future goes for him. But I think in the short term, Brock Purdy's going to be fine for him.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I don't know if this is necessarily the defense finding out how to really work Brock Purdy, but more just a testament to how good the Browns defense is and the ability for them to kind of make plays on that side of the ball to kind of limit the exposure of their offense with the backup quarterback. But I would say that, Purdy's doing really well. But everyone wanted to say that he was an MVP candidate at one point this year. And I never really saw it. I think it's more Kyle Shanahan, behind the scenes and all of the superstars that he's had along, with weapons such as Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, Christian McCaffrey, and then that offensive line has always, been pretty solid. So whenever you lose Trent Williams and you do lose, Christian McCaffrey and Debo Samuel, it's definitely not going to be a good game for any quarterback to lose their, starting left tackle and their two of their best weapons. But for him especially, I wouldn't say that Brock Purdy's in jeopardy by any means necessarily. I don't think that any team has figured them out. But if these guys are injured for a long period of time, I wouldn't expect the 49ers to be as dominant as they have been.
Yeah, I think, you could say that for anybody in a similar situation,
Yeah. And Tim, kind of adding on to what you're saying, those three guys going down to, that's a big change to your game plan. That's a huge change. One guy you can kind of adjust to a little more. And another point too, they were at Cleveland. It seemed like a pretty rowdy crowd, not an easy place to play. So with all this, a lot of when it rains, it pours. Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah. And I mean, you lose arguably number one running back in the league, arguably the number one left tackle in the league, one of the, I'd say, top 10 wide receivers in the league. You know, that's a tough bet when it's hard to lose one of those guys, let alone three at the same time. So
And then your
we'll
your
have to
third
see.
round kicker missing 2 field goals that they easily should have made.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
But continuing on with the undefeated teams that go down, taking a look at the Philadelphia Eagles and their offensive struggles, is kind of the same question for the party. Is Jalen Hurts kind of getting figured out, or was kind of mainly Shane Steichen and his game planning that was really propelling them? What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like I haven't really liked what I've seen from Jalen so far this year. I don't think he's necessarily the reason that they're winning games. I think obviously DeAndre Swift has had a really good start to the year. They still have one of the best offensive lines, even though Lane Johnson's kind of banged up right now. And their defense is phenomenal. Jalen Carter is probably going to win defensive rookie of the year if he keeps up playing like he is right now. But I don't really like what I see out of Jalen. I kind of bought into the hype last year watching him play and performing the way that they did. But it's kind of the similar situation, but different vein of the question of that, you know, the Philadelphia has a lot of great weapons on their team and they're not really getting utilized. I know there's AJ Brown has been outspoken about it. Devontae Smith is starting to get outspoken about it. I mean, Dallas Goedert's a really good tight end. He hasn't said anything, but he's not really. He finally had his first good game of the year last week. So I don't know. I don't like the Eagles because I'm a Cowboys fan, but like I don't really think they're performing like they should be right now.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to that too and say the weapons are there, but it's not really performing. Maybe something happening behind the scenes. Maybe the offense just doesn't click because there were a lot of new faces coming in this offseason. Who knows? But yeah, it's not clicking yet.
So I think that I'm going to kind of step out and say that Shane Steichen is what really propelled Jalen Hurts in his career. I think that they have kind of figured the Eagles offense out as of late. I'm not saying that this offense isn't capable of still putting up, you know, a significant amount of points, but I mean, guys, you're not seeing it. It's just not clicking unless they're able to establish a run game or have a, you know, 4th and short or a 4th and 1 on the goal line. They're not. I mean, they're not punching the ball in the end zone easily either. Devontae Smith's dropping a ton of passes. Dallas Goedert has had a, you know, horrendous start. I mean, I know he had a good game last year, but it still wasn't anything spectacular in my eyes. I really think that Hurts is kind of hurting from the fact that, you know, his offensive coordinator is gone and this new, you know, offense, he's been, it looks like he's just continuously running around and kind of just trying to fight to extend plays, which is what he's used to doing. But instead of getting these wide receivers wide open, man, it's just him running for, you know, consistently running for about 5 or 10 yards here and there, which is great, but you can't rely on that to win you a lot of games, especially when it comes to the playoffs. So curious to see how this Eagles team goes. I do want to mention that they play the Dolphins this weekend, which is going to be a really tough matchup because the Dolphins are able to, you know, go 0 to 100 real quick on their offensive side. So I'd like to see if the Eagles are able to keep up in the passing game. And then right after that, I mean, they play Dallas. So I think it's going to be, you know, Dallas fresh off a bye week. So it's going to be a good way to see how the NFC East really kind of plays out. So Philly, again, big test coming up. I think Jalen Hurts is still, you know, a solid quarterback, but I mean, a lot of turnovers. They haven't looked too great. And again, they still have a tough schedule ahead of them. So we'll see how things play out.
Yeah, definitely. I think what it does is highlights how important coordinators are in the NFL still. Like I know some people think that just because these guys are professional athletes and everything, they kind of things should run regardless of who's at the helm calling plays and, you know, managing the clock and all that. But at the end of the day, you still need your coaches, and Steichen's, I mean, he's one of the best. If Anthony Richardson didn't have that injury happen, who knows what the Colts could end up doing this year, you know, so.
Yeah. And all right, taking it on to the last topic here. Kind of the rise we've seen with NFL betting, and also tying that into the just egregiously bad refereeing. It seems like it's been coming through the past, every year there's bad refereeing, but it seems lately it's just every single game seems like it's almost being decided by a bad call or a personal foul or a missed holding or something like that. And then kind of highlighted this past weekend, I saw Kurt Warner in the kind of gambling, the NFL gambling commercial, and it just kind of rubs me the wrong way that they have an official sports book. I know it's a free market, whatever, they can get their advertisers however they want, but I think they shouldn't be allowed to have that. But that's just me. I think that kind of ties into the whole insider trading, all that nonsense. But what do y'all take? I guess I'll take on that.
No, I agree with you, Paul. I think you have every right to feel a little weird about that. Because as somebody that tries to sports bet, we all live in Texas, so it's a little more difficult than all my homies back in Louisiana. But you don't want to see essentially the governing body having their own sports book. At the end of the day, sports books are lucrative moneymakers for whoever owns them. I mean, look at Barstool, look at MGM, look at every casino that now has a sports book in them now that it's been kind of ruled and regulated across the country. Typically, I mean, you just got to be concerned that, the NFL isn't just focused on the money that they could be making and not letting that hinder the product that they put out every weekend. So got to be, I'm a little concerned too. The referees have just been bad. I don't even think it's just an NFL thing. I think all professional sports, it's been really bad. I've seen it in the NBA a lot. I've seen it in MLB a lot. I don't really know why. I'd assume that it's because maybe the education process has been dumbed down a little bit because people don't really want to do it. And so you still need the bodies out there, but they might not be getting the same sort of education that they need in order to be like a true referee. And then also, I don't know, like there's been the stuff about some of the NBA refs that they were betting on games and everything. That could be a widespread issue across all the major sports leagues. Because at the end of the day, these guys are still human, they should be held to a higher standard. I think they should. I think they should have press conferences and everything. Agree with whatever the Kelsey brothers, they say it a lot in their podcast whenever stuff comes up. But I don't know. It's weird. I wish I could believe that everything was being done in an honest way, but I can't. So.
Yeah. And Paul, kind of adding on to what you said about talking about the commercial and how it rubs us the wrong way. I think at one point in the commercial, they mentioned that like 44% of games are decided by one score or less type thing. And whenever it's coming down to one call, it kind of makes you question a little bit. Like, I'm not necessarily, you're bringing it up, you're like red-handed guilty, but it's like they're highlighting it's a close margin that can be thrown off very easily. And I don't know. It's interesting. I'm a little speculative of it also, but I don't know if there's much we can do regardless, as much as we hate it.
I think until they're full-time and they're not like part-time referees, when they're, determining games at the end of that, they cannot be trusted. I know people, it's human error. They make mistakes and bang plays happen, but it seems like and it may be too also like teams go for the deep ball just to get the pass interference because they know the DB is going to they'd rather give up the penalty than the yardage, and get burned for a touchdown. But like some of it's almost like, do you get rid of everything? Is everything going to be reviewed in the last couple minutes of the game, and it's going to slow down the game? But I was always a fan of reversible calls. I think especially when you look at like the targeting, for instance, like when that's reversed and they don't eject the guy, but it's like, well, we already threw the flag. You're still going to get the 15. Like that is just so. It just makes no sense. I still don't understand why that's a thing. But that's, it's not like I make the rules, so can't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, we don't get paid enough to make these decisions, but
yeah, I can't really tag much along with the gambling. It rubs me the wrong way, but I think that there's nothing really much we can do. But as far as the officiating, I agree with y'all, man. This year's been pretty bad. And I just feel like it's not even been bad in the sense that it's like, oh, blatant missed call here and there. It's just like there's no consistency to it, Like the Giants game on Sunday night, Darren Waller was clearly held. They don't call that, but during the Super Bowl, there was, Bradbury's call that was, some deemed as questionable, and we're saying that's not a hold. And so it's just kind of strange how it's like the ref will call that in the Super Bowl, but in a Sunday night game to decide the game, they won't call that. It's like I just think that there needs to be some sort of consistency, especially with the holding. I think that like during the game, some of the guys like to just see what they can kind of get away with before the ref calls that, and I think that that's fine. I just think that once the ref does that, it needs to be consistent on both sides. But I will say though, like when it comes to like what you said, Paul, about the throwing it deep and the wide receiver trying to draw a pass interference, I think that that's kind of ruining the game. I think if the quarterback's going to underthrow him, I think that the DB should have the ability to go after the ball too, and it doesn't matter if the wide receiver stops. Like that's on him. That's on the quarterback for throwing a bad ball. Like if you are truly trying to go for that deep ball, that thing's got to be in front of your receiver. Your receiver shouldn't have to stop and come back and then get bumped into and then throw your hands up and ask for the flag. Like that's not football. That's NBA crap, and I don't like that.
I want to add on to that too with quarterback targeting, right? Because you see some cases where quarterbacks can almost lower their head into it, like make it helmet to helmet contact, that type thing. Like I remember, what was it, the Sunday morning game last week with the Bills and Jags. Josh Allen was tackling Josh Allen, straight up sack, but he got called for targeting because his helmet nixed quarterback Josh Allen's face mask. Stupid penalty, totally safe, clean hit as far as we all played football in high school and probably Ryan for college a little bit. But I don't know. I think they're overcomplicating the penalty book, I think, a little bit, and making too many niche and nuanced cases that are kind of open to ref interpretation. And you've seen some crews can slow down a game and make it feel 5 hours long, and some can not even throw their flag whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. And the games that the crews don't throw the flags and let that stuff kind of go are usually the better games, at least more entertaining from a fan perspective, which at the end of the day is what the NFL should be concerned with, I think. But that's where all the money comes from. Yeah, I completely agree with y'all. I don't know. It's gotten to a point, like I remember when I was younger and the NBA kind of started going through all this crap with the flopping and not calling travels and stuff. And my dad just said, to hell with it. I'm never watching the NBA again. And he doesn't. He hasn't. I mean, I still keep up with it because I'm young and I enjoy all sports because I'd rather watch sports than some, crappy TV show. But the NBA is, has kind of gotten to a point because I'll go back and look at old games from, the 80s, 90s. Sorry about that. And it's just like the quality was so much better because they just let the guys play, and that's what it should be. And I just really hope that whenever, I get to the point that I have children, I'm not telling them that I'm not going to watch the NFL anymore because it's just a bunch of bull crap, so it's like, but it feels like that's what it's going towards. And I hate that, but it is what it is. And for Lane Johnson and every other tackle that does this stupid crap, call the damn false start. Okay. That, oh my God, as an offensive lineman, that irks me to all get out, and everybody sees it. And I don't care how you spin it. It's a false start. So sorry.
And Durant.
Frustrating stuff, but yeah, I don't know. A lot to be concerned about, and it's been really bad this year. So I just hope it gets better before it gets worse.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's been kind of progressively getting worse. The ref calls, they're getting more and more questionable. I don't know if we expect too much out of the review booth or if they're doing too much. I don't really know if the review booth actually even plays into it, but I feel like refs have been getting more and more involved, sports betting aside.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kills me is that, like, the commentators even know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll be watching a game and, like, there will be a bad call, and they'll start off by saying that, like, I don't agree with that, this, that, or the other. And then, like, when it's getting reviewed, they get to a point where they flip it on its head, and they're like, oh, no, I see what they're talking about. I'm like, no, y'all don't. Like, y'all are full of shit. Like, I'm like, don't like try to fix your product so it looks uniform and you agree with everything. Like, nah, call them out on it because that'll help with the issue, I think. Collinsworth's he's watched enough football to know when stuff doesn't look right. So I don't know. You got Macaulay up there, the Super Bowl ref, from Louisiana, by the way. He's a cool dude.
Mhm.
He knows. I've heard him talk about it, and he doesn't always agree with it, but he feels like he kind of has to,
Yeah.
Not that he has to, but that he's almost made to, just for it to sound right. I don't know. We could get into a lot of conspiracy theories around the NFL and professional sports, but I don't think we need to do that.
Since we have a little bit of time left, I want to talk about one thing concerning the reviews, right? Injury reviews. Like whenever a guy goes down and they're like, oh, let's see why he went down. Oh, yeah, let's watch his high ankle sprain or Nick Chubb's knee go the wrong way.
Or Aaron
Stop
Rodgers'
doing that.
Achilles.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
still
I
sick
hate that.
from that.
I remember watching, what was it, Bryce Ramirez for Texas Tech last year, and he had a compound fracture in his shin. Shin went through the skin, and they kept playing it.
That makes me think of a different sport, but Kevin Ware for Louisville in the March Madness tournament back in 2012, I think.
And Paul George.
Yeah, Paul George for Team USA. Yeah, I think like if you replay it once, I mean, I don't even think you should be really given that sort of leeway, but if like you don't know and you replay it one time, sure. But then like, I mean, once you've made it visibly aware for everyone, just stop. It's not fair to the guy that got injured. It's not fair to the audience. It's not fair for anybody. You don't
it's
need
like the Texas Tech one. The announcers didn't notice it probably for 6 or 7 replays. And once you caught it, you're like, stop doing it type thing. And it's just like, and they're like, oh, we just found it. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Like I almost studied kinesiology, and then I went with accounting. Like the human body's super interesting, especially when you put it in the realm of sports and like what the body's capable of doing. And with that comes injuries. And so like injuries, as weird as this is going to sound, kind of fascinate me just because I've had a pretty traumatic injury before, with my spine. And like learning the processes of what happened and then how to fix it are super fascinating. But I don't want to watch that shit on TV. I don't want to watch a guy blow his knee out.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It makes me throw up, like that Kevin Ware injury for Louisville made me throw up on Easter Sunday. Not ideal. I mean, I was like 11, I think 11 or 12, but
still a pretty rough one.
Still visibly remember that. That was awful.
Yeah.
All right, today we're going to go ahead and look through the Week 7 pick'em boards. We're going to go ahead and get our Week 7 picks. First, we're going to go back to Week 6 recap. Didn't do great as we wanted. The 3-pick. Justin Fields went out early with an injury. He'll miss some time for that, so he unfortunately hit or missed on that one. Tyreek did end up scoring, so we got that one. And then Diggs, the whole offense was struggling on that weird Sunday night game, so he didn't unfortunately score, but it's part of betting. But we're gonna go ahead and move on here with Week 7. A couple ones I liked here. First, you go through and go to receiving touchdowns. All right, so this combo one, I'm going to go ahead and start off with George Kittle and Alexander Madison, taking the under on that. Madison doesn't have a single rushing touchdown all season, and George Kittle does have 3, but they're all in one game against Dallas, so have good odds. Good odds to take that one. Also, while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and take Jerry Jeudy and A.J. Dillon to not score a touchdown. A.J. Dillon did score last week, but I believe with Aaron Jones' snap count kind of getting back up to normal off his injury, he should be getting more of the touches. So I should achieve those 20 carries that A.J. Dillon had last week going down drastically, as well as Jerry Jeudy here. He's on the trade block for Denver, and they're struggling as well. They do have a decent passing offense, but it seems like
Russell Wilson is targeting.
Right. But that wraps up this week's conversation. Let us know down below what you think regarding the refereeing and as well as the other topics to talk about the 49ers and the Eagles there. If you like what you heard, again, appreciate a like down below. Also subscribe for more, and we'll see you next week.